Mr. Norton, Mr. Norton, welcome to this evening's broadcast. I know you've been traveling. You're coming back from overseas. You've been making the rounds, talking with Guyanese, giving them a sense of what's happening back home. And you're coming back into the reconvening of the National Assembly after this month of recess. Talk to us a little bit about your trip overseas, some of what you may have been talking with Guyanese, some of the other things you've been talking to Guyanese about in the diaspora. And then we'll talk about this reconvening of the National Assembly and inter-parliamentary meeting.
One of the most important things I recognize is that Guyanese overseas are listening a lot. They are following all our programs and they are well aware of what is happening. The Guyanese community is very well disposed to supporting us in the next general and regional elections, and they are prepared as far as to help where they can, even by their presence. So overall, it has been a good visit. This last one was to Canada. Before I was in the United States, every program we had sold out crowds. Importantly, in Canada, we had not just a sold out crowd, but we had a crowd that had ethnic balance. There were a lot of Indo-Guyanese as well as Afro-Guyanese. So for me, it was a very successful visit. And
excellent.
I think the visit is so successful that it sent Barrett Jackdo criticizing anything that they could find.
Correct. You know, you've talked us there about some of what you've been talking to Guyanese in the diaspora about. What have Guyanese been talking to you about?
One thing all the way, we need to see the back of the PPP. Everywhere you go, at a distance, the corruption is so obvious. So wherever you go, the call is for you to do whatever is necessary to get rid of the People's Progressive Party. That is the main point about all the visits.
Yeah, and as you often say, for Guyana to grow, the PPP must go.
Yeah.
Irfan Ali is going to Parliament on Thursday. I think this is the second time since 2020 they came to power. He is seeking to address the National Assembly. I don't think anybody can remember what he said the last time. It is always so uninspiring. What is your sense that's bringing what's bringing the president to the National Assembly?
I think the fact that elections are coming and they are in deep trouble, they want to come to the Parliament. We have got to be very blunt about what has happened. The PPP has refused to consult with an opposition that has 49% of the support. That in itself is a pass. And so him coming to the National Assembly doesn't mean much to us because he doesn't consult and he doesn't listen. That's first thing. Secondly, I gain the impression he's coming to deal with the cost of living and the Ghana situation. Well, there are a number of things he will have to do before he can be taken seriously. Now, one of the first things he will have to do is to come with a strategy to reduce wastage and corruption. Right now, any talk about putting resources in the hands of the Guyanese people will demand a reduction in corruption and a reduction in wastage, which I don't think he can do because they are the architects of the corruption and wastage. So to me, whatever he comes and he says, he will fall short because the very nature of the regime does not allow them to transcend the critical problems that face us, like governance. They cannot be involved in good governance. By their nature, they have to be discriminatory. By their nature, they have to be corrupt. And so I don't see how they will come with proposals that will deal with this question of wastage and corruption. Then he will also have to deal with the depoliticization of the Guyana police force, to the extent that the PPP has corrupted the Guyana police force, to the extent that the PPP has politicized the Guyana police force. Any serious talk about bringing relief to the people of Guyana must include a depoliticization of the police force. And if you're going to appoint a commissioner, you have to investigate those that are there now before you can talk anything about about appointing a commission and deputy, or else you will merely be showing that you are complicit in corruption and you are prepared to continue in the same way. So if he doesn't address that, his speech cannot make sense, because one of the critical issues facing Guyana is the lack of proper law enforcement in keeping with the laws of Guyana. And so if he doesn't speak to this question, then I don't see how is it we can listen to him. How is it we can listen to him if he doesn't address the fact that you have taken away lands from the people of Maka and poor people across this country, not by just a letter, but by a bulldozer, by a dragline. You have physically destroyed the people in Mocha. So if you come in now, you have to come and tell us about restitution for those ills, because you have committed a number of ills in this society. And we sense that they are coming to speak to these issues now because there's an internal battle in the PPP. Jagdo is worried that Irfan's corruption team is doing better at corruption than them. And so you had Jagdo flying out talking about dealing with corruption. No,
Yeah.
you have to deal with corruption generally. The question of whether Irfan is more corrupt than you, it doesn't matter, because both of you affect the people of Guyana. And so we in the opposition will observe that unless they can deal with this issue, then again, we have to confront the PPP. And now
Correct.
you have a number of local democratic organs in which the people elected the APNU in the last elections. And in the general and regional elections, the APNU AFC, you were starving Linden of resources. You were starving New Amsterdam of resources. You were starving Georgetown of resources. When we were totally in charge, you were starving Bartica. You were starving Madia. Now you're giving resources to those areas, and you continue to starve those that are controlled by the APNU. So don't tell us you have Guyanese at heart. You don't. What you do is you are politicking. One good step in his speech would be to say how much resources will be allocated to the regions won by the APNU. And then he must not only do that, he must allow them to identify the REO and overseers, because you can even put the resources, but if you continue to control the REOs, the overseers, the town clerk like you're doing in Linden, then you can't be speaking to us, because you already put the machinery in place for control and domination. And if you're going to deal with the issues, you have to break down that barrier, that insidious machinery that you have put there. And so you have to come much better than that and allocate the resources. And then you have to end this nationwide what I call this nationwide crisis of corruption and discrimination. What can he say? What could he come and say to deal with the incompetence? The only thing that could deal with this incompetence is a change of government. Nothing that he says will cause Edgil to run projects better. Nothing that he says will ensure that $7 billion in contracts, $7 billion in contracts do not go to a friend of Barry Jackdew. These are the critical issues that are affecting Guyana. Guyana is being badly governed. You took over a GPL that was on the move. You put us where we are a blackout nation, even to the point of affecting our cricket. So what I'm saying here is this: we are not prepared to go in Parliament and listen to Irfan Ali talking garbage. We might go in there, but if we go in there, we can sorry, because we ain't gonna behave ourselves. But there are many of these issues there are many of these issues that have to be addressed, or else the
Correct.
government isn't making any sense.
Correct. So I wanna get to the cost of living, the high cost of living, which is a main area he's coming to address. 4 years later, this transformational governance they keep talking about. But I want to circle back to some of the things you spoke to earlier. For instance, the appointment of a substantive commissioner of police. You've already been on record as saying in the past, for instance, where the Chief Justice is concerned, the Chancellor, you are for the current office holder. You will support the president in that regard. That has happened long before Hickins started acting. And Irfan kept saying he's going to come to that, for instance, when he appoints the Judicial Service Commission. That has been appointed. We're still waiting. Now he is going at breakneck speed to appoint Hickins. I saw, I think, Demways reporting on this matter saying that a human resource specialist says he cannot be appointed as a substantive commissioner because he's past the retirement age. Where is he going with this, Mr. Norton?
He is void of common sense. You know, they're accustomed to domination and control. And so reason doesn't come in. Any rational person will know if you have a police force in which a man would have retired and you give him an extension, you are extending him as an acting commissioner. You cannot proceed to make him the substantive commissioner. Apart from the fact that I've made it very clear that he's neither certified or qualified to be the police commissioner. But you must understand, if they put a police commissioner that isn't equipped for the job, then there are the swords of Damocles over his head and they'd be able to control him. If you put a commissioner in which there are serious allegations of corruption against he and some of the top ranking person, then you will have a police force that can't enforce the law. And so for them, it is not the rule of law. That is the other thing he should do. He should give a clear indication of the things that he will do by the rule of law. We speak to the Chief Justice. Yes, he did say once they appoint the judiciary, they will move ahead and appoint the Chancellor and Chief Justice. But you see, he wants certain people out. They want a judiciary that they are totally in control of. And that is what is preventing the confirmation of the two young ladies. And he cannot say it is political because many occasions there were rulings that weren't, I would say, favorable to us.
Correct.
But we live with it. There are many rulings that aren't favorable to citizens. They live with it as part of law. But that is not the PPP. Look at how Jagdio virtually cursed out Kisoon for a decision he made in the interests of the people of Guyana. These people, this is an election gimmick. Remember, Jagdio expressed concern about how corruption will affect them. I think what they're trying to do is in the couple months that are left of their tenure to try and appear to be people serving the people of Guyana. But the people of Guyana have had 4 years of them already. And they know full well that he can say whatever he wants to say now. If you didn't do it in 4 years, why we believe you could do it in 1 year and be sincere? Yeah, and the problem here is the absence of sincerity. They are
on
not
that on that very note of sincerity in tackling corruption head on, this has been kind of imprinted in the DNA of the PPP. In the last press conference of the vice president, that focuses on what you are doing and your press conferences. That's the nature of the press conference. You don't get anything else out of it. It's all about what Norton is doing, where Norton is going, what he's wearing, how he dances, and all of that stuff. He says that they found an engineer in Region 8 who was kind of double dipping. He was an engineer in the region and yet competing for contracts too. And, he said this is a conflict of interest, it's corruption. But he preferred to say that the engineer has to make a choice. It's up to the engineer which area he wants to function in, whether he wants to be a contractor or the engineer. It's left up to him. But we were made to understand that the contract has already been executed. The man has gone with his 40 million and the man is still on the job. Is that the kind of way, Jagdio wants to tackle corruption, him and two in the living room and so on?
That is the nature of Jagdio. he recognizes that there's already a fait accompli. If you know the concept of a fait accompli, when it is done and it is done, well, you have to live with it. So if he comes
It is
now,
done.
And make these pronouncements to some of his supporters, he sounds as if he's tackling corruption. But the reality is known that he isn't, because the person is already paid. If he wants to tackle corruption, let him deal with the fact that his friend got $7 billion in contracts for pharmaceuticals, etc. Then you will say, because I am there, sure the engineering carry away 100 million. No way close. But you have in this system people who are incompetent, they are given contracts, the government comes, end the contract, and then got to get a new set of people more money because of what would have happened. Excuse me. And they know full well that it's corruption. They are involved in unparalleled corruption. They have
And
been
case
the
in
most
point, you
corrupt.
have Starbucks News. Starbucks News pointed out just over the last 24 hours, the Port Drawing pump station stalled because of the similar kind of practices. The Tupui pump station, that's the Bellevue pump station just up the road, same fate. And you can name project after project after project after project.
Correct.
For instance, the Carifessa Avenue that had to be done over about 5 times.
So why you
And
didn't
currently
say
being done over again.
why didn't he say Ejil or Ashney should choose? Can't say that, because they are part and complicit in all the allegations of corruption in this country. So we are saying to the people of Ghana, don't be carried away by this so-called address to Parliament. There are many things that have been said outside the Parliament and inside the Parliament that were not honored. Is it not the same regime that said when they lost power, they want a clean voters list and biometrics? Now they're singing a different song. When they were seeking power, they were talking about petroleum commission. Oh, and you couldn't run it without the petroleum commission. Now they are saying no to a petroleum commission.
It's going to hamper the pace at which they're moving, they say.
Which they are moving, that kind of stupidity. They're not even prepared to do proper feasibility study. Jagdo is so barren in thought that he seeks to make the fact that you do feasibility study a problem. Oh, the APNU is only about feasibility and feasibility. Well, yes, there must be feasibility, because you did none for Skeldon and it is in trouble. You did none for the packaging factory, it is in trouble. You did none for fiber optic cable. We waste billions of dollars. And so these people are not prepared to govern Ghana in a sensible way. They govern Ghana so that their families, their friends, and their favorites can benefit. Overall, oil resources are not meeting the people of Guyana. We have been saying at the parliamentary level, and even outside of that, the WPA has been saying, let us give a $1 million transfer to the people of Guyana in a direct way to each household. They don't want to do that. And then if they do that, based on their track record, you will know it is going to be discriminatory, because every cash grant they have delivered has been discriminatory in nature.
Yeah. Some people still got some pink slips waiting, leader of the opposition. Some people still got some pink slips.
Yes. Some of them, change the color, must be light pink. They got them so long. So nobody should take Irfan Ali and Jack Doe seriously.
Just before I head back into the issue of the high cost of living, and Irfan Ali addressing the National Assembly on Thursday, another issue that he cannot talk about, you raised, the attitude of the government towards local government bodies that they do not control. On the eve of the last local government election, Jack Joe was at pains to say, win or lose, they're going to work with all of these municipalities, NDCs, even if they don't win them. But we haven't seen them. How can we take Ali serious?
We won them, and he refuses to work with them. What they're doing is identifying selective people who they think they can control in local government institutions and try and relate to them to appear to create division in the opposition one and to appear to be working with the people. But let's look at Linden. You promise to work, but you appoint a town clerk who lost in the local government election. And the very fact that he participated in the local government election should make him political and not qualify to be town clerk. But the government makes him the town clerk and then proceeds to use him as the town clerk to undermine the work of region, of the town council.
Yes.
The same is true about the RDC.
Correct.
So they cannot be trusted. They promise even their own supporters they will be different between 2020 and 2025. You go to the PPP support base and they are complaining just a few PPP insiders are benefiting, and the mass of Indo-Guyanese that would have supported the PPP are not benefiting in a direct way. So what is happening is the mask is coming off. COVID is over. The COVID mask that Jack Dale and company put in front, it's going. So people are seeing exactly who they are and what they are doing.
The mask is coming off indeed. Mr. Norton, in February, during the national budget, you marshaled your members of parliament to support the government's package for cost of living relief. I think to the tune of over $7 billion. Just last week, a reporter put that question to the leader of the opposition. What measures have they rolled out or put in place since that money was appropriated towards that relief package? He said nothing has been done since then. But Irfan Ali is coming on Thursday to talk about the cost of living. What could Irfan Ali tell you that could persuade you that they are that they care about the Guyanese people when this money has been sitting idle for the last few months?
Well, this is not the first time it's sitting idle. The year before, they passed it. And they wait until the end of the year when the prices go up. And
is
then
that a government clears? Is that what people said in government?
No, not at all. The word people doesn't go together with this government at all. Whenever you talk about this government, you talk about a kleptocracy. You talk about a ruling elite that is all for itself. But let us turn to cost of living. Every budget presentation since I'm leading the opposition 2.5 years ago, we have called for cost of living relief. Not only have we called for it, but we propose measures. I remember Gail Teixeira raising my speech and saying, oh, this had nothing about cost of living, etc. When in fact it had. And let me remind you the things that it had.
Talk to us.
Give me a minute. Apart from saying that we will put resources in the hands of people through cash grant, we made 12 proposals. 1, vouchers for Canton and minibus operators so that they can access lower gasoline costs. We had said then in my presentation that a lot of children can't get to school, that the cost of living is killing. Therefore, if you develop a proper law-governed system in which minibuses, canters that are transporting food, etc., are given vouchers to get gasoline at a low cost, and you put the controls in place, it will impact the people directly. Excuse me. We also said, 2, the waiver of electricity charges for low-income individuals. We propose that you can help the people of Guyana by reducing the charges on electricity or subsidizing it. And this liar one, Jack, they run and say, I say I will remove subsidies. I never said that. We are always for subsidies, but we did say that we have to have a long-term plan to make these institutions viable in its normal scampish self. He put it over as if we said no to electricity support, but we never did. 3, the waiver of water charges for low-income individuals. We made that clear. They never did it. What they do is try to find something that happened under the APNU, AFC, and skew it in their direction. They're not interested in governing this country. They're interested in cussing out the APNU. We have been proposing measures. We proposed cost of living measures. And the next time I come on your program, I will go through the measures we produce to reduce poverty. But let me continue. We said grants of $10 million or more so farmers can buy equipment to expand production. We argued for expanded production. My argument then was if you have expanded agricultural production, then your costs will go down. I have to read this in tandem with what we said at 12. The development of regional agriculture to reduce the cost of transport in food. We have said to them, Region 8, 9, 1, 10, you have to promote agriculture in these areas so that they become sustainable communities and that the fact of increased agricultural production will help to bring down the cost of food. They paid no attention. They rejected it. Why? Ashley Singh told us, me, Sham, Solomon, and team, when we negotiated for a better deal for Linden, that they cannot support agriculture in Linden because regions 2, 3, 5, and parts of 4, they have a comparative advantage. And I told him that was garbage. Then we proposed grants of $5 million or more to small businesses so that they can expand production. I mentioned that already. Now, 6, equitable distribution of the excess $60 billion. Listen to this. Let me go it over. Remember, there was an increase in prices. And what it showed, that we gained an extra $60 billion. And this is what we said. The equitable distribution of the excess $60 billion Guyana received from last year's unexpectedly high oil prices, $300,000 per household. We said then that oil prices went up. Now it means you gain over and above what you planned for. And we said then that if you take that and put some of it into the households, we will impact the cost of living directly and improve the quality of life. The difference between we and the People's Progressive Party is that we intend to improve the quality of life of the people. The People's Progressive Party is intent on putting money in the hands of their family, their friends, and their favorites at the expense of the people of Guyana. So we also said at 7, an immediate 35% increase for all public servants. We said we will do that. This is before the teachers struck for increased wages. We always had the capacity to give them at least 30%. And they come sign a backdoor deal, giving the teachers next to nothing. So let me continue. Writing off of UG student loans and fees immediately to free up disposable income to families. We, University of Ghana, should have already been free. Forbes Burnham, whether you like him or not, afforded this country free education from nursery to university without oil resources. Why on earth the People's Progressive Party, with the billions that they are wasting, cannot give our children a high quality education, and not let them pay, but pay quality lecturers, even some from the diaspora, so that we can improve the quality of education and improve the human resource capabilities of this country. Well, I dealt with, we also said, provide students stipend of no less than $50,000 a month for higher education and technical schools. When I was advisor on youth empowerment, we had done a survey and we saw that children that had the resources to get to the technical institutes got there. Those that had the money to the university got there. But once they were far off and they were poor, they couldn't. We have made a proposal in this last budget. I made the proposal. And we continue as part of our people-centered development strategy to say, oh, I should point out, Lion Jack there, the liar, King Lion, the liar, went and tell people how I said I will get rid of the 40,000 10-day workers. I never said that. I said we will increase it to 50,000. But the significant difference between we and the PPP is that they are doing it for domination and control and don't want those young people to advance. We are going to increase it to 50. We are going to link it to educational and other opportunities so that they can improve themselves and become employable at the full-time level. But Larry can't help himself. He has to lie. And so he gave a total different version. Now, those were 12 things we identified in that budget speech. The government paid no attention to the relief. In fact, what could Irfan Ali come to say? They were arguing that to take measures to deal with cost of living will carry up the food prices and inflation, will result in inflation. I remember arguing against them, saying that in the history of wages rise in this country, the one under Granger, which is about 70%, and the one with the arbitral award by Armstrong, none of them resulted in inflation, in high prices and inflation. And how is it you could be a caring government and you can't take measures to deal with inflation? If they had followed us into agriculture and developing the production capability, once you develop your production capability, you create new jobs, you will have a situation in which it will impact positively on prices. But they are not prepared to do that. They are prepared to pay lip service. But even while they are talking about putting money in the hands of poor people and of public servants, will result in inflation, they are well prepared to put at least 20% of $666 billion in the hands of their cronies. We have got in Guyana a system based on cronyism. There is no free market. Cronies in charge. Yeah. And when the cronies do their corrupt act, you politicize the police so that the police can protect their cronies. Irfan Ali should not come to parliament to say anything. He cannot be believed. They have shown that they are incompetent and can't implement their own measures. They've shown that they are divisive. They have shown that they do not care about the people of Guyana. We have outlined a people-centered development strategy that will allow us to improve the quality of life of the people of Guyana. And that will be our focus, not listening to Irfan Ali mispronouncing words and saying all kinds of garbage, when in fact, they know full well that the very structure of their approach to economic development is to enrich the few at the expense of the people of Guyana.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Leader of the Opposition. It is clear you have a plan and you are ready to hit the ground running on day one. I know you've just come back, as we said at the beginning of the broadcast, and we know you're settling in. You have a full week ahead. We are going to leave it there, and we are going to have you back perhaps post presentation on Thursday to walk through some of what is said by Irfan Ali in the National Assembly. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Sherod.